Oh, that's right, Chad. Let's go talk about this for a brief spell, cuz this was like on my feed and everybody is just complaining, but good reason to like complain, and almost even like doom posting this shit. We'll get copyright for this, but fuck it, whatever. So this was going down. This went down, I think like 2 days ago, maybe. Street Fighter's like big exclusive SF6 tournament that's going to be going down at March-ish. It's going to be going down at March-ish. Just unveiled what their schedule is going to be via like a Twitter post. Capcom Cup 12, March 11th to 15th in Japan. The more we read about this, the more there's a lot of like, what the fuck is going on? There is pay-per-view tickets for people that are going to be watching the Capcom Cup 12 finals and SF League World Cup finals.
What?
Pay-per-view is like a format that, let's say if we just like type in like Google right here, pay-per-view, a system where the customer pays a one-time fee to access specific content such as live sports events, concerts, or movies rather than subscribing to a service. Through cable and satellite providers, dedicated websites like ppv.com, and through online streaming platforms like YouTube and Hulu. Very known example for this would be like WWE events, right? For those who can't make it to like, you know, actual WWE or wrestling events, a lot of dudes like to use the pay-per-view format to actually watch the show from their home seats, you know. It's actually Capcom Cup, our video game fighting game, is going to be pay-per-view.
What?
They're gonna be priced, so you can't watch it for free now.
Bruh.
You can't watch Capcom godlike goodness, Capcom competition goodness for free now. Now you have to actually pay to watch fighting game goodness. Like, what the
what?
And Event Hubs like explains it all like for us, right? This news suggests that viewership for the top 16 portion of the bracket will be greatly reduced compared to previous years. We'll be switching to pay-per-view format similar to Street Fighter League. The price of admission is 4,000 yen at the moment, which converts to around $30 to watch the top 8. Or like the top 4 or whatever. This likely means that watch parties on Twitch and YouTube with popular streamers will be prohibited. Speculating the event live without payment won't be possible. In layman's terms, that just means that international fans of Street Fighter are not going to be enjoying, you know, this awesome exclusive Street Fighter event, right? With no money. You actually have to pay money in order to like watch it, which is boo. Wow, what a fucking dick move, Capcom, right? What a dick move. So you want us to pay to watch your video game esports tournament. Reason is being like esports, right? Esports been sliming their way into our fighting games, right? Like ever since like a few years ago. I mean, even more than a few years ago, I reckon, right? It in this year got like fucking catapulted into like, you know, unbelievable heights with even EWC with Street Fighter and Tekken, and even like Fatal Fury with a $1 million like prize pool that SNK got from like the Saudi royal family, so therefore they own the dance. It impacts not just like big league big league commentators, or even like FGC like celebrities like Sajam or Brian F or Maximilian, or all these like cats and dogs that have been in this Street Fighter FGC crowd for a long time and have been restreaming events for their fan bases. I also do that sometimes, right? How many times I've been watching EWC for Fatal Fury, for Street Fighter, how many times I've been watching Evo events, you know, things like that. They were like the funnest of times because I get to like chill with my chat, talk about real life, and then also just like watch fighting games, you know? But now that shit is going to be going away. Why? Because, you know, now you have to pay a ticket, a $30 ticket to watch these events, right? So it's really fucked up. I feel bad that now we won't get to like enjoy Street Fighter goodness anymore, or even like in the foreseeable future, because of this pay-per-view format, right? And all fault again goes to like esports, right? There is like, you know, some like logic behind it, quote unquote logic behind it. Street Fighter is actually really big like in the eastern part of like the world, in Japan at least. You see like lots of like good examples of like Japan really just favoriting, right, their Street Fighter games. Like most notably is Third Strike. Third Strike is heavily popular over there. There even still is like the Co-op Cup, which is like a big like grand stakes tournament for all the old school Third Strike heads that still play Third Strike to this day and compete in mad stacks of cash for that game. And of course, you know, Street Fighter 6 is heavily popular in Japan, right? Comparatively, so like if we draw up like, if we can like say numbers and statistics, and I looked this up actually right before talking about this, Japan streamers who stream Street Fighter 6, for example, Kawano, Tokido, Daigo, who else was there? Nemo, Fudo, right? They are so much larger in terms of their viewer count and popularity for Street Fighter than, let's say, over here in the western part of the world. Even like my favorite FGC streamer, Maximilian _ dude, doesn't get as much views in comparison to some of like the Japanese streamers, right, who play Street Fighter, who live and breathe Street Fighter. It's understandable where they're coming from, because Japan is concentrating their efforts on Street Fighter to a much more local base, rather than pushing for their game to be more abroad. And that just kills like chances of like the game like trying to catch like an audience, right, overseas, and you're just solely focusing on your group specifically. This is even more insidious because like you're blocking off part of your, or most of your fan base, just so you can concentrate on like the esports scene in Japan. Of course, like I hate it. Japan gets like all the dibs, right? And this is like a worrying sign for like the future for, let's say, big sponsorship esports tourneys that, oh, let's say, God forbid, Esports World Cup next year for Street Fighter Tekken, now they have to cost like 5,000 reals. 5,000 reals or 5,000 dirhams. Evo is going to cost like $500. Going to cost $500. Something like that. No. Evo is going to cost like $50 to actually grab a seat, and then 50 more if you're going to stay for like the whole day or something like that, you know? It's understandable that where Japan is like coming from, not saying that like I forgive them, I call them like, you know, exempt on the matter, just so you could like make a little bit of like profit. And of course, like, so you can't say like Capcom is not okay with this, because, you know, they're a company at the end of the day and they want to like, you know, seek out like profit for their company. And this is like, you know, what they like chose with. More or less, it affects like the devs, because, you know, guys like Matsumoto and Nakayama-san, who are very like open out there, very vocal with their like community, and have a lot of fun just meeting fans overseas, bro, they're gonna feel affected by this as well, because it's like, man, now Japan is like gatekeeping. Like Hi Fight posting out something like this is probably the reason I see most people who understand why Capcom is doing pay-per-view around 6-7 million US dollars every year based on Capcom's investment, something to offbeat those losses, and lo and behold, that's pay-per-view. I don't necessarily like agree with it, right? But also it makes sense, quote unquote, where they're like coming from. And you know what? A lot of like FGC folks are gonna be, you know, hitting up like locals now more than ever. Why go through all these like sponsors when you could just go to something like community friendly, like Combo Breaker, CEO, right? What else is a good one that's like local driven? Probably Texas Showdown, maybe? Probably Texas Showdown. Some of those like events, even though they have also like sponsors there, but they're more community rich, right? They focus less on like, you know, the esports part. This is like the problem with like, you know, esports like in a nutshell, right? Esports, like as like my mod would say, it like ruins games, especially like fighting games. All this like celebrity stunt pulling, you know, all that shit, all of this like, you know, flack, and it's just like costing games like in the long run, making all of these like pushes for esports. I mean, to be fair, like Street Fighter has been, you know, a known example for like the esports push. Like hell, even like SF5, when they were doing like all their exclusive stages and exclusive costumes. But the thing is that Street Fighter, all those esport like profits, all those tourney profits are there for, you know, paying out for the game. And back then it was still okay to watch Street Fighter in its full entirety, and you get to see all the advertised like costumes and whatnot. But there's a fine line with like, I feel, using the profit to help like further grow like the game, and then there's a line where like you exclude everybody from discovering like your game, discovering the peak of your game for the sake of like your own country's like worth. It's super fucked up. I don't like it. And just like, God forbid, stuck for the love, you know, hoping that doesn't happen to like other of our like favorite tournaments, you know, that this doesn't like impact, right, tourneys like moving forward with this like disease of esports. Want to avoid esports chat? Just like go to like a local, go to like a Combo Breaker, go for like a tournament that's like for the fans and by the fans, you know? All this like Riyadh Qadiyah pushing and all this like Nodwin like stuff, and like Sony stepping down, like it like sucks. I do not like it.